Okay, well, we had a couple surprising losses this week. Two of the co-hosts here had one of their teams, had both of their teams lose in a fashion we didn't expect. We had the Eagles and the Jets game. Jets ended up winning 20-14, and the Niners and the Browns. Browns ended up winning 19-17 off a Jake Moody missed field goal. Which loss surprised you guys the most?
49ers, absolutely. That 49ers loss surprised me. And I hate to say this, but I've been telling Big for a couple of weeks now, the Eagles aren't that great of a 5-0 team. They just haven't been as great as they have been in the past, unfortunately. They just don't seem to be firing at the cylinders that we're used to. And I don't know what it is or why it is. I mean, I know in the offseason they lost some key players, but, overall they're still pretty well intact. I don't understand what's going on with them. I don't really know what happened with the 49ers game either. But that one was the most surprising to me.
So if we break down the Eagles game, most people know the Philadelphia Eagles are built, from the inside out. Their offensive line is their strength.
Absolutely.
And losing Lane Johnson really allowed, the Jets did everything they could. Say, hey, you know what? We're going to try to exploit this mismatch. And you know what? They were able to do that. And they were able to double team guys like Devonta Smith and the tight end. And, A.J. Brown's going to get his. But limiting him was something that they thought was very important, but was not a priority. And you can just see how they played the Eagles. Their second half game plan was completely different than the first half. And getting the ball with those short fields and those turnovers and, it just I'm going to say this. No one expects the Philadelphia Eagles. As an Eagles fan, I don't ever expect them to go 16-0. I wouldn't want them to go 16-0 because to me, when you go 16-0, that just almost guarantees a first round exit, in my opinion. So I'm okay with them losing the game. And I thought that the Jets was a good team, that was really underhanded. But provided the defensive scheme that they ran a lot of new things that the Eagles wasn't used to seeing, particularly when Lane Johnson went out. And it opened up a lot of things for them. So, you know what? Kudos to them. They really, capitalized. And, they forced turnovers. And when the ball touched the ground, they caught it. They didn't, they took advantage of every opportunity. Now, looking at that game, the Jets only scored. I don't think the Jets scored on any of those turnovers. They didn't score on any of those turnovers. So even the pick that the safety got, and people say, the Jets didn't have Sauce Gardner or another guy.
They didn't score touchdowns. They got field goals.
Nah, not on the turnovers. They got field goals.
The last pick, yeah, that's points.
The last pick, I don't believe that turned into. I don't think any of those.
That last pick, he was at the 10-yard line. He definitely got a field goal out of that.
The last pick was maybe he did return to the 10. But in the event, to turn the ball over 4 times in that game and to only get 3 points, you know what? I'll take that all day. And you know what? The Jets, they wanted it, they fought, and they hung it. And that defense, if we're being honest, you can't say, the Eagles played down to the competition because that defense is just as elite as that Eagles defense and the Niners defense and the Browns. So, you know what? They lost to a good defensive football team. And like those antics says is that offense scores points, defense wins champions. And they played championship defense. And I got to give it.
I was always taught offenses sell tickets, defenses sell get championships.
Sorry.
The Eagles weren't selling no tickets when they were playing the Jets. I'll tell you that much.
Hey, they couldn't. The Jets did a great job. They stopped the run.
Mm-hmm. Which they were going to do.
A.J. Brown got his, but Devonta Smith dropped 4 passes. He basically was a no-show. The Eagles do not have a third receiver at this time. Tight end. That's why perhaps they brought Julio Jones in to, in the event you can't, that's not going to allow you to double team one of our better guys. If you don't have to, if you can play the Philadelphia Eagles and you don't have to respect the deep ball, and you can play 3 minute. 8 minute in a box. You can beat the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, that's what I was going to say with the Julio signing, because I know we were going to bring this up because it did just happen today. I don't think Julio is a starting receiver on the team. I think he's their 4. I think he's a rotational guy that comes in to replace A.J. Brown for a couple snaps, replaces Devontae for a couple snaps. I think Quez still starts just for that speed aspect.
Well, and you're right. And I guarantee you that had Quez even played that game, there was no way those defensive backs, including Sauce Gardner, if he was even in that game, would have been playing that close to those Eagles, because Quez Watkins have run past everybody on that team.
I didn't think Sauce played.
No, he didn't. I'm simply saying that had Sauce Gardner played that game and Quez Watkins was on the outside running down the field, he's not keeping up with Quez Watkins. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, that guy is probably in the top 3 fastest guys, in the league. I mean, and he's just, they're just not. You're not catching that guy. Now, the Eagles do have Britton Covey, who's a world-class sprinter. I don't know why they don't use that guy to take the top off the defense, just to give them some looks down.
Probably dropping too many balls in practice. Or I got no hands.
The thing is that I realized that Hurts, for some reason or another, in some instances, it seemed like he can't get the ball down the field like you would like. So I think that's also, appeared the way that it seemed like they played the Eagles. But hey, the Jets had a great game plan. It seemed like it changed at halftime. C.J. Mosley is amazing. I don't know why I never watched that guy. There was a kid named Huff that played an amazing. I mean, the Williams brothers played amazing. Those guys just played lights out. The one kid on the Whitehead played a lights out game. They played lights out the second half.
So you agree with Matt that the more surprising loss was the Niners game?
I think that, being honest, I think that had the Eagles' offensive line remained intact, and Lane Johnson is a big part of what they do, I don't think that you would have had the Jets sending 6 and 7 guys at the Eagles, because they would have known that, they wouldn't have won a lot of those one-on-ones. Instead, now you have to double team Quentin Williams in the inside. That really changes the dynamics of how you block these guys, and I think that was game changing. Mm-hmm. The Eagles did absolutely nothing after that guy went out. So, I know Vince likes to say I don't care about offensive linemen. I think that skilled players are better. They sell the tickets and they are the meat and the potatoes of the team. But you need offensive linemen to block for you, and I think that really changed that game. And I don't think the Eagles, as an Eagles fan, I have to say this because I know we're saying, well, whose fault is that? The Eagles were not prepared to have, what's his name? Not Dillard. What's that guy's name? I can't even remember. It's Driscoll. There's Driscoll in there. The guy can't block. The dude can't block he couldn't block Vince. And Vince has no legs. So, I don't know. And you know what? If they have to go into Miami with that guy starting at right tackle, I think that the Miami Dolphins is going to say, hey, you know what?
Dolphins go into Philly. Dolphins at Philly this week.
Well, they can come into Philadelphia, but I think that we're going to see Jalen Hurts under duress like he was in New York running for his life. And that's what you get. You can only make magic so many times.
I think the more surprising loss is the Eagles, to be honest with you. Because I think Hurts is a better quarterback than Purdy. And it didn't seem like he could pass on a Jets defense that, yes, that is good, but they were missing parts of their secondary. This wasn't their starting unit in the secondary. And yes, he's missing a tackle. I'm still expecting a guy that we considered an MVP candidate to be able to throw on a team with a depleted secondary. He threw 3 interceptions, and I would argue he lost the game for him.
Listen,
granted the play calling, I didn't agree with the play calling, but
he threw the game clinching touchdown. But if we're being honest, the play calling was horrible.
I agree. I agree with that.
I mean, you can say depleted secondary. They have 2 of the best safeties on that defense in the National Football League. And those guys being able to double cover, and they have really good coverage linebackers who weren't, they played amazing that second half. And you know what? Sometimes, as they say, the sun shines on a dog's ass. Sometimes those guys played amazing. And I'm sorry, I don't care what team was on that football field playing offense. I think they would have. I think that defense playing at that level that they played at on Sunday, they would have beat almost any team in the league.
I think the Browns game was the same way. I think the Browns defense was phenomenal too. I just think that the Browns had most of their starters intact, and the Jets didn't. I think Hurts being a better quarterback than Purdy, I just felt like Hurts should have played better. So that's why it's a more surprising loss to me. Defense did its thing. The Eagles defense, even with you said they don't have the greatest, they didn't have the greatest safeties. But they played fine. I know it's Zach Wilson and all. I feel like the Niners defense was giving up stuff to PJ Walker, which is definitely surprising. But I feel like the more surprising loss to me was the Eagles. I don't know.
I think that I watched the entire game in real time of the 49ers and the Browns. And I will say I would have to say,
and it was a rainy game. We can't forget that Niners game was a rainy game.
It was a rainy game, but I don't want to take everything away from Purdy. So I'm going to put a little bit of this.
Oh, he didn't play good. No, let's be honest. He didn't play good.
He didn't play good, but I think that the 49ers offense is highly predicated on that first read being open. And it's always open. I'm sorry, I watched those games that first half. Those guys, that first drive, he do a play action, he boosts left, pivots, turns around, looks to his right. Guy's completely open. Debo, Kittle, McCaffrey. When he lost those players, I think it changed the mindset of that coach. And I think that we started to see that first read was not open. And I think Purdy kind of was like, almost like a deer in the headlights. And I think that a lot of it has to do with the coach not being prepared for that situation. He didn't want to get hit, and like he did. But when it mattered, he drove his team down the field. That read, and the reason why I say that first read is because sometimes you can see a guy, they drop back 1, 2, 3, and then they let the ball go. When you can drop back and you let that ball go immediately like that, it's because that read, what you're looking for based on the coverage, is open. It's there, and he was able to do that later in that game and get them in position to win that game. And I know that kicker's a rookie.
Third round rookie.
Yeah,
I do think Brock Purdy's timer was dramatically cut short with him playing against Myles Garrett, and to the point of big where he's used to his first read being open. In this instance where it was not open, he's immediately having to try and find another read, knowing that Myles Garrett is essentially breathing down his neck at that point.
But it wasn't Myles Garrett though.
Well, Myles Garrett didn't really do much.
It was a different.
Right. So with the point of Myles Garrett is always at the forefront whenever you're thinking defense against the Browns. So they're scheming to play against Myles Garrett, and they were. But Myles Garrett, man, he was whooping Trent's ass all day, and they were doing a lot of motion, a lot of chipping, trying to get at least two sets of hands on him. But I do think to Big's point where Brock Purdy's first read not being open and him knowing that they're trying to scheme against Myles Garrett to keep him out of the play, it kind of flustered him a lot more than maybe it would have if they were playing against any other teams where there's not so much of a focus on a player like Myles Garrett. I think any other team, I think Brock Purdy would have been fine if that first read wasn't open.
What I think about the game, I don't think Brock played particularly horrible.
Well, here's his stat sheet. He was 12 for 27, 125 passing yards, a touchdown, and a pick.
Well, you got to think he's playing with a wet ball. His receivers dropping passes because wet ball. The ball's getting snapped through the grass. It's all soaking wet, and he's got small hands. The ball's slipping out of his hands. You got to say he probably hasn't played an NFL game in the rain before.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to think that this is probably a test for him. Plus, he's playing the number one statistically defense in NFL right now, who's allowed the fewest scrimmage yards since the 1970s in first 5 games. So you got to think he's playing this tough defense in the rain. He's got these guys down his throat, and he's trying to get the ball down the field, throwing the ball with a wet pass to his receivers who are without Debo. and so he's got Ray McLeod out there trying to do what Debo does, and usually those dump off passes to Debo is what his first read is.
I mean, they have
And I think
George.
that's
They have
just kind of
George. They have
under pressure.
Ayuk. They have Juan Jennings. Obviously, no McCaffrey. They still have targets.
Well, they have targets, but I'm saying that Browns defense is no joke. Like, they definitely caught the 49ers offense by surprise.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think, and then we just couldn't, after we lost a couple guys, I think the morality was just down on the offense, and we just couldn't get a drive going for the majority of the game.
So do you think the Niners game is more surprising or the Eagles?
I think the Eagles game is more surprising. I feel like everything was kind of against the Niners in that game, and I think the Browns winning that game was definitely not surprising if you watched it. I feel like the Eagles game, I feel like the Eagles definitely should have won that game. I feel like they had a lot of mistakes on offense that kind of hindered them from that. And I feel like, and definitely after throwing the pick that sealed the game for the Eagles, I feel like that probably shouldn't have happened, and they should have walked away with the win there.
Like, that was the play calling I didn't like.
49ers,
I don't know why they're passing there. I know they couldn't run. I don't understand the reason.
No, I think that the Niners definitely didn't play well. Definitely not what they've been playing so far this year. But it's a rough game. Like, all rain games are going to be low scoring. Offenses ain't really going to be doing much. Kind of just a defense, kind of sliding around in the mud, But
I will.
The 49ers kept on trying to pass the ball, and without McCaffrey running it, they kind of strayed away from the run game, and I think that's what kind of killed them. They trying to get the ball down the field, throwing the ball in the rain, and that just kind of doesn't really work that well, obviously.
Mm.
So I think that's what killed them. And I think PJ Walker played pretty good. He did throw 2 interceptions, but and I don't think the 49ers they didn't have Dre Greenlaw out there, and you can definitely see the tackling was definitely not that great. They were missing a lot of tackles, and I don't think they were playing their best. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I think the Niners losing. I think that wasn't as surprising as the Eagles.
No, I'm not
because
sure
if you watch
Vince
the game,
can
the
add
Niners
much.
definitely weren't playing as well as you'd think they were. So
I honestly think the 49ers game was the bigger surprise. Pointing out with what Matt said here is that the Eagles is.
So are you just saying the Niners are a better team, and that because they lost, that's the most surprising win, just because they're the better team?
I think from the perception of a lot of people and persons and a lot of analysts that they believe that the 49ers is the absolute cream of the crop. Even above the former the reigning Super Bowl champions.
I agree with that. But as far as the way I look at it, the Eagles were in the Super Bowl. In my mind, they are the cream of the crop.
Listen. I'm going to say this: the Eagles, they lost from top to bottom. They were out coached, they were out muscled, they were outplayed, and you know what? It happens every single year. When the Eagles lost to the Commanders last year, it was the same exact thing, and they were in it into the second to third drive of the game, and you know what? 1 play, 2 plays made the difference. Let's say the Eagles convert. When the Eagles got that ball back and that pass that Jordan Whitehead broke up, let's say that's pass interference. Let's say they actually called the penalty there. That game is absolutely over. Hurts does not throw that pass because it never happens.
But you're just hoping for penalties and saying what ifs. I don't know.
I'm not hoping. I'm giving you analysis, a breakdown of what.
I just don't know why they're throwing the ball there.
No, but that's to my point, is that there was this poor play calling. Like, they needed 8 yards. They threw the ball 40 yards downfield. I mean, these are things that Brian Johnson is not a good offensive coordinator. Was he a rookie? He's a rookie offensive coordinator. That does not give him a pass because this is the National Football League. He should be prepared to do his job and do it to his best ability.
Well, you can't blame him. You got to blame management for that.
Hold on a second. Hold on. It's a bigger indictment on Nick Sirianni because Nick Sirianni was an offensive coordinator. when you see game plans that necessarily don't fit, and I know the Jets made some adjustments at halftime, you as an offensive-minded coach need to go to your OC and say, hey, listen, we need to maybe look at some other things. They're sitting on there with the tablets, aren't they? They got tablets. They're sitting there looking at tablets. You know, I don't want to keep going on and on like a broken record. I'm simply saying that, you know what? The Jets outplayed the Eagles. In the case of the 49ers and the Browns, I don't think they completely outplayed them. I don't think P.J. Walker outplayed Brock Purdy. I don't think that there was poor play calling in that game. I think it was just a grind out, beat down, fight fest. And you know what? That kicker missed 2 field goals. If he makes just one of them, it's a different football game. That's simply all I'm saying. And I'm saying
that's why it's not as surprising to me.
Jake Elliott, Jake Elliott missed a field goal on the previous drive. There was just so much that just happened. You know, I don't want to say fluke because it's the national football game and they say it's any given Sunday for a reason, brother. And I'm telling you that, you know what? On this Sunday, the teams that was viewed as the cream of the crop, they got dealt with. And as an Eagles fan, you see, look, I love my Eagles, but they got dealt with. And I got to just be honest with it.
Okay, Vince. Well, I'm not sure there's too much you can add, but what was the more surprising win?
Yeah, the Colts.
out of the two games, obviously.
I think the Niners loss is a bit more surprising, injuries aside, but I think it's kind of ironic that last week we were talking about, yeah, it's literally just the conference of 49ers and Eagles. It's between those two teams, and they both lose the following week.
It still is. Let's be honest, it still is.
It still is. But the following week, both lose to teams with struggling records. I'll put it that way.
And backup quarterbacks and injuries throughout their team.
Yeah.
I don't know. It felt like the Niners had a chance to win that game, but the Eagles didn't against the Jets team. I don't know. That's what it felt like to me. I think the morality of that Eagles team just they didn't feel like they were in it. I just want to say a couple things. I think we're done talking about it, unless you guys do have something to add.
I just said the turnovers surprised me. So like I said, 49ers is the more surprising loss to me personally. I am surprised Eagles turned it over as much as they did. I can't remember for sure, though. I know you said Lane Johnson went out. I think they have a missing lineman somewhere else, don't they?
Just Lane.
Okay, I thought
I'm about to list the injuries that happened and what they turned out to be.
I know how Hart's played more or less. He didn't play great, but how was the Eagles' run game? Because typically
No McCaffrey. They had no McCaffrey. The Eagles' run game bad. They couldn't run in the Jets, but the Jets' front is good, so that's not too surprising.
Yeah, they definitely are good. But Eagles have been running on everybody. That's why I was asking.
I'll tell you who was good. Dalvin Tomlinson was eating the 49ers offensive line up.
Mm-hmm.
Backfield every play.
Mm-hmm.
It almost seemed like
I think it's funny Williams got a deflected pick.
So just a couple quick
Miles
injury
Garrett
news.
didn't really do much. He had some good back and forth with Trent Williams, but I think Trent Williams got the better of him most of the time, saying that he had no sacks. He had a couple hurries, but I think Dalvin Tomlinson was the best D lineman for the Browns last
Best
week.
D lineman of the game, not just the Browns.
Best D lineman of the game.
Best D lineman of the game. That dude was in there every play.
He was eating us up.
No, anyways, Debo had a shoulder injury. He's day-to-day. Trent Williams, ankle injury, day-to-day. McCaffrey had an oblique, questionable. They're saying he has a chance to play Monday night. Lane had a lateral ankle sprain. He got lucky. It's only questionable for the game. And then Reed Blankenship, x-rays were negative, ribs. No official statement on it, but it looks like he might be good this week. Dolphins play the Eagles on Sunday Night Football, and the Niners play the Vikings on Monday Night Football. So we get to watch these teams on prime time to see how they do. I think this is the Niners' first time in prime time. Eagles' second, I believe. You know, primetime games, they are games that we look differently upon, I think. I think the Niners had the easier game. I think that's all right.
The 49ers come to primetime before. They played the Giants, which was primetime because the Giants only played primetime.
That's right. Yeah, the Giants are always on primetime. My bad.